Today my guest is Pam Farrel.
Teaching them how important it is to love and be passionate towards God, then God will boomerang that passion and drive that passion in appropriate ways.
You'll live your faith and pass it on. Share the gospel clear and strong. Stand for, claim your heritage of truth.
Welcome to Heritage of Truth. Today my guest is Pam Farrel. Welcome, Pam.
Oh, it's so nice to see you. Be in your studio.
Great. Well, I'm so glad that you were able to take time out to be with us. Now, Pam and her husband Bill are the authors of over 30 books. You're relationship specialists who seek to help people become love-wise. And you wrote the book that was a bestseller, Men Are Like Waffles and
Women Are Like Spaghetti. Yep,
yes,
definitely
yes.
how we're known for.
Yes, that one's a big one. And 10 best decisions a couple can make. And you guys have been happily married for 32 years?
Actually, now coming up to almost 34.
34?
I know, we rounded the corner.
Wow.
Yeah, in December.
Wow. And you've got children and grandchildren.
We do
Yeah.
now. It's kind of nice, the payoff for all those hard mothering days, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we get to have beautiful daughter-in-laws and wonderful grandchildren.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, with all of that, you have a lot of experience with children. And so you've written a book for parents and
Yeah.
maybe even grandparents
Yes.
called The 10 Questions Kids Ask About SEX.
That's right. Woohoo.
And so the subtitles are Knowing What to Say, Guiding Them to Wise Decisions, Giving Age-Appropriate Answers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's always a tough one. Like, I had my granddaughter ask me a question just a month ago that I did not know how to answer, so I just I didn't really avoid it. I just thought it was her parents' job, not mine.
Yeah.
So I
That's wise.
sidestepped it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just wondering, how do you decide when to start talking to children about the subject?
Right. A little girl. Okay, this is a really fun story. A little girl. She's doing her homework, and so she looks up from her homework, and she's like, "Mom, how do you make babies?" And the mom's thinking, oh, this is the moment. I need to do this right. I don't want to mess up my child. Okay, well, honey. And she went on about the birds and the bees and the flowers and the trees for an hour. And the little girl's eyes just got bigger and bigger. And finally she's like, okay, Mommy. And the next day she came back, and the little girl again, she's sitting doing her spelling homework, and she looks up and she's like, oh, Mom, you were wrong. I asked the teacher how to make babies, and she said, drop the Y and add IES. Yeah. Step 1, make sure you understand their question. Yeah, definitely. What are they asking? Oftentimes they want a real simple answer, not the long, elaborate answer. And that's one of the principles is to give them a simple answer and then maybe 10% more. And then see if they have any other questions, answer those little answers, see if they want any more information, and just keep that natural ebb and flow going. And really, when it starts, the whole education for this really important topic, the gift that God gave, really starts as soon as they can talk. They realize they have different body parts, and they want to talk about those body parts. And if we can just hold on to all of our emotions and answer very naturally. Well, honey, just like we would talk about a nose or an eye or ear, that is, and name the body part. We can really help our children become comfortable talking to us about this vital topic. I really believe that the parents are the first educators. I mean, we look at the Garden of Eden, and God created a husband and a wife and then children. Before he created the church, before he created any educational systems, he put mom and dad in charge.
That's right.
And so it's probably a good lesson to learn from God. Mom and dad, even though you might be embarrassed or uncomfortable, God wants you to be the best educator for your kids.
Well, also, we don't want people who don't have the same biblical
That
worldview
is right.
that we do teaching children about something so important.
That's exactly right. And we want our kids to hear it from us first before they will hear it from anybody else, before they get any media exposure, before little Johnny down the street might share his opinion, before any educators maybe in the public system that might or might not have our viewpoint. Yes, we want to be the first ones to share accurate information at every age and stage.
So how do you help them keep their innocence when
The world is not innocent?
Yeah, and the world is making them grow up faster and faster.
Definitely the world is. And so I think of that verse, be as wise as serpents and innocent as doves. That's really a nice balance here. We want to protect our kids as much as possible, as long as possible, but yet make them the smartest kid on the block. They'll be the child that has the accurate information, that really knows and understands what information is right, what's biblical, what does God think about this, what does mom and dad think about this. So we want our kids to be the leaders of their peer circle. And so that means we have to equip them to be the leaders of their peer circle. And so when we share, I encourage moms and dads to share. One, sometimes it'll be easier if mom shares with the girls and dad shares with the boys. That helps innocence a little bit with the comfort zone, especially younger in life. And then again, present it as God's point of view and God's gift, and present the right things and the righteous way of talking about the gift, rather than any of the ways it's been misused, perversions and things. Try to keep those delayed as long as possible.
Right. Yeah. But then, every now and then they'll come home from school and they'll say, Mom, what is...
Oh, yeah, totally. That happened at our house. I was really happy that I had been the proactive mom, and all along we started in youth ministry, and so we had toddlers when we were in youth ministry, and so I wanted our kids, if they happen to overhear certain words, that they would at least understand God's point of view and what God had intended for that wonderful gift. We had been very honest with our children growing up, but, we didn't want them to hear about the awful ways that, Satan uses this gift, misuses the gift.
Right.
And so one of our boys was in a school play out in the community, and in the dressing room, I hear this boy say something very inappropriate, and then, of course, my son's, "What's that?" And I'm like, I think it's a great time to go on stage. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about something else and get on stage. I'm thinking, when I get in the car, I have to deal with this, right away. I can't just brush this under the carpet, because now it is an issue.
Right.
And he's going to wonder about it. And I don't want him going to anybody else other than mom and dad for that information.
Yeah, that makes sense. Is there ever a time where it should be mom and dad together?
Yes. I think that when you do what I call the big reveal, when you really talk about how the bodies fit together and how God intended the gift to be used, and you get that child ready for their own bodies to be changing and what might be happening to their peer circle, at that moment, it's really if mom and dad are there, because they might have questions for each of you. And it's also good for them to see the united front. So if mom and dad are both available, even if you might not be living together, if you can cooperate long enough for your child's good outcome, that would be a wonderful gift to your child. And if you happen to be a single parent, then don't wait just because you're not the right gender to talk to that child. Go ahead and talk to that child, but then surround that child with, let's say if I'm a single mom, then surround that child with men that would share your same value system. Hunt down that youth pastor, those Christian coaches, those uncles, their grandfather. So put some people around that will back you up, or that they can go to if they're uncomfortable talking to you, but
especially a son.
Yeah,
yes.
That the son might talk to grandpa about something, or an uncle about something, where he may not be as comfortable with you. Yeah.
That makes sense. You call the years between 6 and 11 the oasis years. What do you mean by that?
Right. They're the oasis years because they're out of preschool, they're out of diapers, they can button their own jacket, and so they're a little bit independent. They're also able to process a little bit more abstractly, but they're not teenagers with their attitudes yet. And so you have this little window of time, so teachable, so incredibly teachable. So that's a wonderful time. Start layering in those character qualities in those preschool years, but really reinforce them when at age 6, 7, 8, those early years. What are the qualities that would make them a great marriage partner later on in life? What are those qualities that will help them make wise choices in the area of relationships later on, like delayed gratification and patience and honor, and what does it mean to be a hero? And
so character really
is huge.
Enters into it.
It's huge. Like if we would spend the majority of our time as parents developing our children's character and their passion for wanting to be closest to God's heart, then we don't have to worry so much about them asking the question, how close can I, when I'm setting my boundaries, how close can I stand to the Grand Canyon without falling over? Yeah, if they're pursuing God with a whole heart, they're not going to be close to the edge of the Grand Canyon when it comes to this area. And so really teaching them how important it is to love and be passionate towards God, then God will boomerang that passion and drive that passion in appropriate ways. And character development early on. But then those Oasis years are also the time to start really informing them on, well, you definitely want them to know the whole stranger danger thing well before the Oasis years to protect them. And but during that time, that 6 to 12 range, you want to start preparing them for the changes that are going to be coming. And so it's kind of like a painting. First, there's the background, then you sketch in with a pencil, and then you start painting the bigger details, and then you do the fine-tuning. And the fine-tuning comes in those teen years. You want all the other major pieces in place. And definitely before their bodies start changing, you want them to understand what's coming, and then what happens as their body changes, why their bodies do what they do, and how that brings the bodies together to create this new life.
Right.
Answering the question, how are babies made?
Right.
Yeah.
It's so important, too, to do that all from a foundation of Scripture, as you've already mentioned.
That's right.
God's Word. Yeah.
1 Thessalonians 4 needs to be imprinted on their heart. It is God's will for you to be sanctified and not have relations outside of marriage. And it's really clear. And so they need to have those kind of verses, plus like our kids are raised with, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. How close do I need to walk with God to keep that pure heart? Our family verse is out of 1 Samuel 2:30. Those who honor God, God honors. And before you say or do anything, we said check in with your GPS. And that is, does this decision show respect to God, G, P, people, S, self?
Ooh, very good.
Simple question. They understood the concept. It's a GPS. And you know what? If you just say yes to all those, it's a good choice. If you can't say yes to all those, probably not a good choice. It's a pretty simple principle to teach to them.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I hope
God, people, self.
I hope people will adopt that for their own families. You shared a bit in the book about rites of passage. What did you do with your children in that way?
We really believe that you should, as parents, grandparents, leave your trademark on your children with traditions and memories. And so that's the TM for trademark. And so traditions would be those things you do year after year. That would be like the character quality we talked about. So we have a learner leader day once a year where we negotiate privileges and responsibilities. We choose one character trait to focus on for that year. We give them a gift that applauds the uniqueness we see God creating in their life, that passion, that calling. As our son Brock said when he was 18 at a graduation speech, Mom and Dad, you gave me a dream big enough to make wise choices for. We want them to know what their platform is. And then those memories are those once-in-a-lifetime kind of things. And so you mark those special moments in some kind of a celebration. Even as they go into kindergarten, this is a big deal. Look, you're going to kindergarten. Here's your little lunchbox. Here's your backpack. And here's some good information that you're going to need to deal with those kids. So you mark those moments, again, as their bodies start changing. Let's celebrate that. And I really appreciate Generations of Virtue. There's a wonderful illustration of mom being all ready for when daughter's bodies start changing with a cute little purse with everything she might need inside of it. We, with our boys, shaving kit. Okay, it was well before they were needing to shave, but they're their bodies just start smelling as they're little boys, and that's a good time to talk about those changes that are coming up. And then as our kids get more mature, as they go into high school, father-son trips started happening, and let's celebrate you. You're going into high school. Here's some information. Oh, hey, let's download the teen relationship contract. At lovewise.com, we have a teen relationship contract. And our kids fill that out before they're in any relationships, before they're interested in the opposite gender. And we reward them for it. Let's take them out to dinner, order a big old steak. You bet, you filled out that contract, yay! And when they start driving, they get a keychain that says, until the day, with the First Thessalonians verse on the back, and then an ID bracelet. A lot of people give the purity rings at that point, but some kind of a tangible reminder. So as they're out on those dates or out in those social circles, they will have a reminder to make good choices. And then the last one that we do, well, actually there's a couple more, but an important one is I wrote Raising My Own Princess. It's a rite of passage for teen girls. You're a godly woman now. And with a little crown, dad says a prayer, a big celebration princess party. It's all good. We did a walk into manhood for our boys that was personalized to each one of our sons. So one of our sons, a quarterback, walked the football field with his mentors. Another son, all about his lifted truck, drive the racetrack, then they walk the racetrack, pouring into our son. And we're planning our last son's now, and he's like an outdoorsman. I don't know if it'll be like a rappel into manhood, a kayak into manhood. I hope it's not a jump out of an airplane into manhood, but yeah, something personalized to them.
Right. Yeah, that's really neat. So you mentioned this relationship contract. What's in it?
Okay, so a lot of times we hear about the purity pledges, just wait campaign. Well, it really, when we were in youth ministry, we saw that we didn't want those kids to just make an emotional decision. Everybody's going forward, everybody's signing a piece of paper. Like, what are you signing? What are you saying here? And how do you live it out? And that's really what those questions are. There's an interesting study that has happened as they've tracked those kids who made the purity pledges. And the kids who made the decision independently and decided, this is what I want, that weren't there just because the crowd was going forward, weren't there just because their friends were making the decision, but they wanted it. Those kids were able to keep their pledges. The ones who was like, oh, well, yeah, hey, it looks like everybody's going for it, I guess I should go up front too. Yeah, they had a hard time keeping it. And part of the reason why is they hadn't thought through the issues. And that's really what's in the teen relationship contract is, what kind of person do I want to marry someday? What are those qualities, leadership traits I should be looking for? Do I have those traits? Because quality attracts quality.
That's right.
How do I show that I'm responsible enough to begin dating? Who's going to pay for these dates? Like, I don't pay for my kids' dates. They need to pay for their own romance. No way. Like, if they're not responsible enough to pay, they're not responsible enough to be in a relationship. So just simple things. Who's going to drive? Well, you know what? I'm not going to drive you on your date either. Like, if you're not responsible enough to get there, perhaps maybe you're not ready yet. And so just some really simple things to help them think through what they'll wear, what they'll say, and then the boundaries. We have a chart there, and you read verses all about what God says about relationships, just in general, but then specifically, how far back do I need to push that line to maintain that pure heart? And then they sign on the dotted line. It's between that young person and God. And basically, you're just there as a witness to see that they've made this commitment. And it was tradition in our house that before our boys started dating, they filled out that contract. But part of the way that they proved that they were ready is they had to take that contract to the girl they wanted to ask out and her parents and explain how they were going to keep that girl having a pure heart, body, soul, mind in our son's company. Well, after we picked up the parents, that they're shocked that anybody does these days. They're like, yeah, you can go with the Farrel boys, but there's accountability built in. We ask our sons to give a copy of that contract to either their small group leader, their youth pastor. We had a copy of it. Their best friend, who really spends a lot of time with them, knew the details of the contract as well.
Oh, I like that accountability.
Accountability is important.
That's great. Yeah.
We all are human, so we all need accountability. I still need it. You're part of my accountability.
This book is for parents of what ages?
Actually, it goes cradle all the way through college.
Great.
Preschool to premarital, all the way through.
So where can people find you online?
lovewise.com. love-wise.com is our
Okay.
website.
Okay.
And it's in pretty much any major bookstore as well, or online distributor.
Okay.
A good part about going to our website is they can also get the teen relationship contract and the freshman foundation, which are additional dialogue questions for a child going away to college. So there's other resources there that they might enjoy as well.
Well, thank you for tackling a tough subject and doing it in a godly way. And thank you
Thanks.
for the example of what you've done with your family.
Thanks.
So
You know,
it's really gonna help
desperate
all of
women do
us.
desperate things. I wanted something better for my children than
Yeah.
the home that I
And
grew up
so
in.
as a result, the Lord's helping you do it for other people too.
Thank
So
you.
thank you.
Mhm.
Thanks for being here.
Appreciate it.
Stand